Welcome to the Business Savages Show. We bring you real entrepreneurs and business leaders that have the grit to dominate. Featuring your host, Sarah Dixon.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Business Savages Show. And I have a very special guest with me today, Brad Wright from MFRG-ICON. Hi, Brad.
Hi, how are you? Good to talk to you today.
Yes, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to helping any way I can.
Yeah. So what I want to do is just ask you a series of questions, see how business is going, how, stuff has kind of changed for you and your business and where you're headed.
Sure, absolutely.
So I want to start with an icebreaker question.
Okay.
If you could choose to travel any place on the planet, where would it be and why?
It would be to Siena, Italy. It's in the middle of Tuscany, north of Rome a little bit. One, because of its beauty. Two, it's just my favorite small town in the world. I mean, it's beautiful there. It's peaceful, and it brings me certainly a sense of joy. So
that's awesome.
Definitely awesome. Italy. Yeah,
that's awesome. And they have the best food. Just saying.
They do have very good food. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a foodie, so
yes.
That's a bonus for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do the where they have these tours where you can stay with host families and they teach you how to cook. Oh.
That'd be cool. It'd be interesting. Well, you'd learn about the culture, right? Something my wife and I always do is when we go to other countries, we like to get into the city and we like to go experience, the markets and the local food, if you will, because you can find a great restaurant wherever you go, but it's when you get into the local environment that really shines. So that would be a good way to do that for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to talk about MFRG-ICON and how you got started.
Yeah, sure. Well, I joined forces with Justin Krieger and Kelly Sands, the partners of MFRG-ICON Construction, really late 2017. I had been doing financial services and some consulting for quite a while, and it was serendipitous, to be honest with you, if that's the right word. But I moved in across the street from Justin, actually, and he had just joined forces with Kelly Sands that I just spoke about, and he wanted to build this as a beautiful company, and I have that operations mind, and he has the entrepreneur mind that goes along with the growth that we needed and business development that we needed. So early 2018, we hit the ground running, and the last 3 years have been amazing. We've been blessed to be surrounded by a team that is bought in and that loves our culture as much as we do, and understands why we do what we do, which is renovate affordable housing communities, multifamily and senior housing, and really bringing a joy to the joy on the faces of the residents that move into their new apartment that hasn't been touched for 15 or 20 years is pretty amazing. So we just have a great team. We've grown our team to around 70 people now, starting to expand throughout the United States, and I got to tell you, it's been built on relationships, and it will continue to be built on relationships. The relationships we have with our people, and the relationships we have with our clients and our residents, and everyone else that's involved with our day-to-day operations. So we're excited about it, and certainly humbled by it, and continue to forge forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. And to grow such a great company within 3 years, that's amazing.
Well, it's really cool because Justin's been in the affordable housing world for 12, almost 15 years, and Kelly Sands has been running ICON portion of MFRG-ICON for a little over 25, and really it was just it was the universe pulling us all together at one point. We had a nice foundation built, we had a strong name. And we had the energy to do it and really take it to the next level. And it's been an amazing growth cycle for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So do you think that the pandemic has brought new challenges for your company? And if so, what are those challenges and how have you navigated and really grown to get past those?
Yeah. Well, COVID challenges start with the kids, right? I mean, no,
I just had to kick mine out.
So I know, I saw that. That's great. No, that's what makes this fun. I actually think, and I hope this is the case for a lot of companies out there, but I actually think that if you played your cards correctly, you have stronger relationships within your company than you ever had before, right? Because the reality is everyone has a different view on the pandemic. But one thing we can all agree on is that it's impacted our way of doing business, and it's real. And how do we come together as a family unit and still be able to follow through on our promise, right? And so of course, when it first started, we were fortunate enough, Justin and I, we started seeing the headlines late December, right? Something was going on there. And I actually have a friend of mine who is the founder of a large grill company. They make smokers. So Green Mountain Grills. He won't care if I say it, but I was talking to him, and he actually has a manufacturing facility out of China, and we he started sharing some concerns with me. Our sons play baseball together, and so Justin and I started talking about it, and we always go forward with, okay, here's what we want to do, right? Here's plan A. But if there's a curveball that comes in, we need to be prepared. So we started preparing for that curveball, and sure enough, I think it was about March 12th, the curveball came. Everything started to shut down, and like any other business, we had to make some tough decisions, and we had to do so with the future of the company in mind. We started with really taking a step back and making the toughest decisions first. I think that if I had to share any advice with business owners going through any sort of challenge like this, it would be, you got to rip the Band-Aid off, right? You can't ignore it or think it's going to go away. You should just tackle it head on. And we did that. And it wasn't easy. I mean, it wasn't easy, but we were able to get our best minds together and work with our clients and the relationships we have. And certainly the priority was making sure that all the residents that are on our construction sites and all of our team members that are on the front lines were safe and healthy. So we put together a pretty extensive exposure control plan. We worked with the clients to adjust schedules to where we really didn't go in the buildings for April and May. We did a lot of those things, but it was because we were proactive, we were able to facilitate that quicker. So it changed our business from the standpoint of, it forced us to really look at our processes and protocols a little bit closer and spend some time on that. I mean, without question, I've had probably over 100 sleepless nights this year, but the reality is we also had time to analyze and to look, and sometimes people just get going and they get so overwhelmed with being busy, if you will, that they don't take a step back to say, okay, can I be innovative? One, and two, where are the opportunities? I don't have my blinders on here. Let's take a step back. Do we have some opportunities? And how do we implement all of that? So we were able to do that in April and May, utilizing our team and our leadership team. We rely heavily on every single person in this company, and together we got through it. It was pretty exciting to see how we emerged stronger than ever. And now really, because we were able to do those types of things, we're our pipeline is wonderful. We're still executing our growth strategy throughout the country, and our culture is as strong as it's ever been.
Nice. Awesome. That's awesome. So I know you're in California and Arizona right now. Are you still seeing struggles, one state versus the other, or,
Sure.
is there still things that you can't do because of, because California, Arizona had, a rough patch there for a little while.
Yeah.
California is still trying to, ride the wave. Are you seeing more struggle there than you are here, or vice versa? Or
yeah, no, that's a great question. So right now we have active projects in California, Arizona, Colorado, Montana, and Georgia. So each state brought its own challenges. Some are easier than others. California, where a lot of our business is, it was really almost a wait and see how the state responded to it. And we were fortunate to be in the exempt status, if you will, from shutdown and stuff like that. So, but with that comes a lot more pressure to make sure that you respect that status, right? You don't just you don't just take it for granted and keep doing what you're doing. We had to adjust. We had, like I told you about, our exposure control plan. So we've had some really good accolades from the cities throughout California and other entities because of that plan, and that allowed us to move forward. The challenge is constant, and it really existed before COVID, and that is making sure that the residents are safe and they have a neighborhood that they can call home. And so if we keep that value structure in front of us and that why in front of us, we can handle just about anything. But yeah, I mean, travel was a challenge. Financing, you had to really watch that. I mean, we were concerned at one point that banks were just going to shut it down for a while, which impacts the new projects coming through our pipeline and so on and so forth. But listen, I think ultimately, let's take out politics from it. Let's take out all of that from it. I think ultimately, if the cities, especially the cities that just said, listen, how can we do our best to move our economy and our society forward during this? And how do we do so with the number one priority of keeping our residents safe? And those cities that did that have been successful. The ones that, allowed a lot of politics to come into play and I don't want to say this or I don't want to do this, really found themselves still in a battle, right? It's still in this constant tug of war, which is unfortunate, but it's the way of our world right now. We're in a super polarized environment right now, and we just have to adjust as needed. Yeah,
it's definitely a whole new world right now, and
totally,
it's scary at times, but you just adjust, and especially being a business owner or being in a leadership position, you just have to ride the wave and keep going, and like you said, rip off the band-aid and just make your decisions and be strategic and grow with the times.
Right. Well, you have to choose what wave you're going to ride. Right. So that's something too that you should always keep in mind, as well as anyone else listening, is it's okay to take a step back and let a wave pass and see how it's going to play out. But sometimes our hands forced, right? Sometimes we have to ride that, and anyone that has a team around them or that's starting their own company will understand that this won't be the last thing we face as a society.
Absolutely.
We are a society that if you really got everyone engaged in the entire country in a one-on-one conversation, I think ultimately, our values align. It's just, how do we portray those values, and how do we work with one another to get better. And
Absolutely.
from an empathetic standpoint. Our world's missing a lot of empathy right now, and
Absolutely.
the definition for me for empathy is pretty simple: just looking through the lens of someone else's glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do that, I think you'll always get to the finish line in the best way you can. But
Yep.
we lack empathy in this world right now overall, and if we could get back to having some empathy and respecting opinions, respecting ideals. Not everyone's going to agree, but having empathy for an opinion is okay to have too. I don't need to hate you because of it.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Completely agree. So MFRG-ICON's company value, which is, I love, by the way, it's so good, is to obsess over the relationships that help us deliver on our promise to rebuild lives. So I want to dive into that a little bit because I think it's such a powerful statement and so important to have in, even in, business, but also in personal. I saw a presentation that you did back in February where you speak on human equity and how being a leader is, how being in a leader position, the biggest compliment you've gotten is when people call you a counselor. Explain that a little to us and explain the importance of this in an employee/employer relationship.
Yeah, no, I mean, that stemmed from years of struggle with me trying to figure out my place in leadership. Sometimes you're thrust into environments where you think you're ready, but you're not, right? And so you're going to stumble over yourself. And I've had a lot of people along the way that have helped me through that, both in my previous professional world and my current. But let's start with our vision. And you brought it up, and it is powerful. And I'm going to break it down into kind of 3 segments. But to obsess, if you're going to do something and not obsess over it, let's really talk about, do you really want to do it, right? I get being forced to do something, or it's inevitable, it's something you can't control. Let's take that out. You have a choice, right? You have a choice to be in the seat you're in right now. Everyone that works with us here at the company has a choice to get on the MFRG-ICON train or not. Like, you can come into the office or not. You can work for us or not. Everyone has a choice. So, but what we want to reinforce is that if you're here, I want you to obsess over it, right? I want you to obsess over how we can be better, how we can nourish the relationships, which is the other part of that. And relationships built the company, for sure. How we relate to our team here, how we relate to our leadership team, our clients, their residents, the whole 9 yards. It's those relationships, our subcontractors, third-party consultants. It's how we build those relationships and obsess over those relationships that has really created a impenetrable foundation. And a lot of people are gonna, might comment on this saying, well, if you obsess over everything, I mean, how can you get anything, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not telling you to obsess to a point where you don't go home and enjoy dinner with your family. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying while you're here and you've accepted the responsibility to help change people's lives, let's obsess over it. I'm a big proponent of anyone that walks in our door. Our goal is to help them become a better person outside these walls than inside. And so when we think about that concept or that value statement, or however you want to put it, really it speaks to our ability to get deeper with the human equity, right? And that's kind of where all that stemmed from. Human equity is something we don't talk about a lot. I mean, entrepreneurs or real estate investors or whoever's out there, they talk about equity, equity in my home, it's related to money. Equity in my business, it's related to money. Then you start to get to some of the intangible items like sweat equity. We hear about sweat equity. If you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner, or you lead a group of people, or you just have to lead yourself, you realize that sweat equity is a very valuable DNA trait to have.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the human equity side, right? So the human equity is really being able to allow people finally, based on relationships, based on conversations, based on understanding family members and family dynamics and who they are and where they come from and their heritage and what kind of family situation they have and who they are in the community and so on and so forth. And then they start to open up. And we start to establish a bond and a deeper relationship. And I see it all over the place. There's so many leaders out there that, whether, say you're a manager or what I call a manager of people and like, and which I don't like that term, but, you go in and how many calls did you make today? Or did you set any appointments today? Or did you, did you do what you needed to do today? And you're tracking all this activity. That's not a bad thing to understand that, because that ultimately relates to the finances of your company. Mm-hmm. But if you don't take the time first to understand who the person is, then you can't expect them to respond to your coaching. And I heard this statement a long time ago. I have no idea who quoted it. So, maybe we can look it up, but, managers manage things and leaders lead people.
Absolutely.
And if you keep that concept front and center, you'll build deeper relationships and your culture will start to thrive because of it. Here we have, I talk a lot about human equity. I also talk a lot about empathy, and I think empathy is a interesting word because a lot of people really don't live it and don't understand it. But we have an empathetic culture here. We have a vulnerable culture here. When we say open door, it is open door. You come in my office or someone else's office, you've been here for 2 weeks, you have a suggestion, just make sure your suggestion comes with a follow through, right? Or if you have a complaint of sorts, I'm not going to ignore your complaint because you're new. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you what the solution would be. And then I'm going to look in the mirror and say, hey, that person may or may not be right. If they're right, let's make a change. So that's human equity is building deep relationships and not having an end game related to those relationships. Simon Sinek has one of his books really, he has Start With Why, which our culture is.
I love him.
He's wonderful. But his latest book, I think, is actually his most powerful. Although Start With Why is great, and you need to have your why, but an infinite game, right? He talks about an infinite game in his latest book, and we're not, you don't win at business,
right?
Okay, you might win at a business deal, but if you don't win at relationships, right? It's infinite, and if you embrace that infinite mindset of I'm trying to build a lifelong relationship with you, and it starts with us getting to know each other. I mean, how does that go wrong? I mean,
absolutely.
People want to be a part of something like that.
Absolutely. I love that so much. I completely agree. That is so powerful. And, I wish that more of that was out there, it's so important.
Sure. Well, the only way to get it out there is for people to realize that it's real. I mean, you can use our company as an example of that, but that flips what a lot of leaders or managers have been told their entire life, right? You have so many different types of leadership, and Tony Robbins talks a little bit about the different styles of leadership, and one of his styles he talks about is dictatorship leadership. Well, a dictator leader, if you will, is some cultures call for that. I mean, if you've been in the military, you know what I'm talking about there. But that is not the way that you're going to innovate in your business today.
Right.
Your business is going to be based on those relationships, because what that also allows you to do is carve out the social media influences and carve out all these different things. And I'm just going to get to know you. Right. I'm going to get to know you as a person, not what someone has to, someone liked your photo or, commented on your status, whatever's going on out there. And so if companies and their start to focus on their leadership team first and leadership development and how to start with being a coach and understanding what that means, and then how to be a visionary leader and create that vision, how to be a pace setter and that sweat equity I'm talking about, you know, and then finally you're at that servant leadership status, which is very difficult to sustain. It's more difficult to sustain than to get to, but both are extremely difficult. And if you are fortunate enough to invest enough time in your personal development and you're humble enough to go to your leadership team and say, hey, I want to start over here. We're going to get together once a month as a leadership team, and we're going to talk about leadership. We're not going to talk about numbers. We're not going to talk about projects. We're going to talk about being a leader, and it starts with how do you lead yourself? How do you be more self-accountable? And then how do you lead other people? And to be really, your goal is to lead other people to live up to what you see in them. Because a lot of times they don't see in themselves what you see in them. And if you can help them, weed out all that minutia and see how they can evolve into this wonderful, person in society and a contributing member of society as well as in the company, I think you're always going to have a sustainable culture, and you're going to have you're going to have a team, a family that is willing to go to bat with you every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Simon Sinek and Tony Robbins, they're such huge, powerful speakers. I know I keep using powerful, but it's,
they are
so true.
Yeah, I think what they do that's a little bit different than a lot of speakers out there is they speak to, they don't speak to what you want to hear, right? I mean, there's a difference between inspiration and motivation, right?
Yes.
So you got those motivational speakers out there, and they're a dime a dozen, and I'm not naming anyone, but they can come out and they're going to say, positive mental attitude. We're going to start there, and you're going to get it done. Let's be motivated every single day. I get that. Don't get me wrong. And it's not a bad message, because everyone needs to be reminded of that. But when you break it down to an operating system almost, and you realize that you are an operating system, and you have to download certain things, and then you have to protect yourself from certain viruses, and you learn how to improve the speed of that operating system, and you do so in that infinite mindset, right? If you limit yourself, and I feel bad. There's a lot of professionals, sales professionals. Let's take that. I came from a pretty competitive sales world, and every year was basically a lifeline, right? So every year you had till December 31st, and your numbers were your numbers, and you got rewarded. And guess what? You got an award on stage in March the next year. All great stuff, all necessary in sales, but you're also asking people to build a business. And so how do you consolidate if you're that person, that's fighting for that 1 year award? How do you consolidate with them to say, hey, you need to not only focus on this 1 year, but maybe you don't focus on that, and you focus on building this long-term business in these 3-year cycles, and hopefully those awards come more frequently than others. But if you're building a sustainable business that you're proud of, let's take out the rankings of 1 to 100 real quick on a year by year basis, and put in the rankings of who's building the most quality business.
Right.
And then, because listen, I'm not about giving awards out for every single person. And I am all about recognizing people who've done a great job and have earned that great job. But to put a finality on it and ask someone to start over without paying attention to the business that they've grown that year, boy, that's a mistake. It just is. And that's the evolution we need to take in the business and professional world.
Yeah. So good. I love it. Love it so much. Before we close, what advice can you give others just starting out that are aspiring to build a company that not only has the respect from their employees, but has a great track record with their clients and customers?
Yeah. First of all, you just need to, the first thing I would do is write down what type of experience you want to create. So your employee experience, your client experience, and write that out. And you should be able to duplicate that and create consistency with that. You know, you and I have spoke before, and I talk about being mechanical. You have to be mechanical in a sense that you're prepared for almost anything, and it starts with that experience. So if you're starting out a business and you're the only one there, you need to ask yourself a few questions. The first one is, you know, have I prepared myself to go through the mud and the treachery that is starting your own business? You know, it's you know, the old adage, it's not easy. It's not easy. But it can be simple, if that makes sense. So there's a difference between easy and simple. And when I say simple, it means that you're giving yourself the opportunity to become better every single day. You're not dwelling in the lows, and you're not riding the highs. You're in between. You know, Scotty McCreery has that new song called "In Between," and that's such a powerful business song, I think. I mean, it speaks to how you should operate on a day-to-day basis. Because if you get too high, you get too low, you're just not going to be successful. It's a roller coaster that you don't want to be. So that's the advice I'd have. If you're going into a leadership position, which you're taking over a team, you know, and if you start to drive results because you feel like there's pressure from other management or leadership or the company, or all eyes are on me, I got to make a change right away. And you ignore the establishing the relationships with people, you're gonna be in a bad place. If you take the time, carve out. You should plan your first 90 days for sure. Your first 30 days should be starting to establish some of those relationships, but observing a lot. Your next 30 days you're continuing to build those relationships, but now you're starting to implement some change because of the conversations you're having with folks. And then your last 30 days, you're fully implemented, but you're doing so in a way that you're not the one just driving it. You've established some decent relationships, and now your culture's starting to shift because everyone wants to be on the same train and going in the same direction. And if you can put the pressure aside of I'm the new guy in town, I'm the new woman in town, and I have to make a splash, because I'm telling you this, a year goes by really quick. And if you focus 1 year on the relationships and tweaking the processes to get a little bit better, think about this, even 1% a week better, right? That's 52% improvement over a year span. Okay. Don't try and get your 20% improvement in week one. Let's 1% a week, 1% a week. And then at the end of the year, your upper management and leadership and all these people, they're going to be coming to you and say, what did you do? Your culture seems to be thriving. It's crazy. Oh, guess what? I invested in human equity.
Right.
You know, and that's where it comes. And so that's the advice I have for people. And I can speak for hours on it because I'm so passionate about it. But, you know, everyone's a little bit different, and everyone has different obstacles that both are created in their own minds, or created by themselves, and then created by other people. But, you know, I got some great advice from one of my mentors a while back. I was transitioning in some things, and they told me, said, just make sure you're connecting with the right peer group, the right people that you can be vulnerable with and open to. And you know, when you go through those challenges, you can speak candidly with them. And so that's another thing. You're starting in a new leadership position, or you're starting with your own company. Make sure you have people around you that are honest with you, but that can help you get through certain things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, starting a new business, it's a tough one. It's tough, you know, I mean, you go through so many challenges, and, you know, you make mistakes, but it's so rewarding at the end. And when you finally, you know, get all the, you know, moving parts down, you know, and you just grow and become successful, and like you said, human equity, and you invest so much time and effort into that, it really helps tremendously.
Yeah, I would challenge everything you said successful. I'd challenge everyone, and you can go off and do it. But look up John Wooden's definition of success.
Okay.
And the reason I ask everyone to go out there and do that is because you'll read that and then you'll go a little bit deeper and you'll start reading some of that material. But really, it comes down to, do you know in your heart that you did the absolute best you could? And that's a minute by minute activity. It's not a year by year activity. So look up John Wooden's definition of success, and that's so much of what we do is in our subconscious and our psyche.
Absolutely.
And continuing to prove that. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for being on our show. How can people find MFRG-ICON? Sure. And I know you said that you didn't have any upcoming speaking events, but when you do, is there a place where people can find those, or?
Yeah, sure. So kind of in a holding pattern with that right now, kind of see how the new world evolves, if you will. But first of all, MFRG-ICON construction can be found at our website, which is www.mfrg-icon. So Michael, Frank, Roger, George -icon.com. Or you can just Google us. And we have a lot of articles and things out there about what we've been fortunate enough to accomplish. And then, as for me, I'll probably start looking at things towards the beginning of the year at small group settings and Zoom calls like this. And I'm really big on, talking about you can look me up on YouTube and talking about my EIV, basically, which talks about your energy and your empathy and your human equity. But I'm always open to, reach out to me. You can shoot me an email. I don't know what you're going to provide on the website, but you can find me, I'm sure. And I'd be happy to talk to any groups out there and spend some time. And certainly when I'm traveling, if it's in your area or if it's in California, Arizona, I'm always willing to stop in. So just let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Record.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.